Hello out there. My name is Lalu Akode and you are on to Inside Sources. But today, I'm skipping my take just so we focus more on two important segments of the program today. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, as we continue our conversation on the future of Nigeria, I have with me a notable emerging Nigerian leader, especially in the oil and gas sector, somebody who is also a practitioner nationally and globally. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources, Mr. Henry Ademola Adigun. Mr. Adigun, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Always nice to be here. Thank you.
Welcome back, actually, to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, sir.
But today I'm going to start with the question that I'd like you to also put your own perspective. If you look at where the country is today in terms of a trajectory, do you think that Nigeria is heading towards that great nation that all of us believe is our destiny?
I'm not certain how to answer it. If I look at the present situation now, it doesn't seem so. I've seen bleak Christmases. This seems to be the bleakest we've had in many years. You go around Abuja, you go to malls, you go to places of excitement, it's empty. People are feeling it in the pocket. On the converse, you go to other places, people seem to have so much more money than they can use. So you can't find hotels in Lagos that are 5-star, 4-star. Abuja hotels are booked. So it's a mixed economy. About direction, I think we're all a little bit confused. So sometimes you have pockets of good news, the Naira falling down. Then in the next moment, you have things that you don't understand, which is very confusing. So I think one thing that we have lacked so far, nobody in the leadership has told us what the purpose of all the reforms is, has told us what the milestones for the reform is, and has told us what we will look for and how we know when we get there. So we don't know where we're going.
So let's try to dimension it a bit. So let's look at what you said about the two worlds.
Yes.
So there is quite a bit of poverty in the country,
Correct.
which you reflected, and also on the flip side, you see quite a bit of greed. Now, you are operating in the business economy sectors. Do you think that the reforms that the government has put in place, are we going to have some kind of closing the gap a little bit in the kind of reforms that you have at the end of the day, even in terms of vision?
The reforms were not designed to close the gap. That is the fundamental failure of the current reforms. There is no design in the reforms to close the gap. The reforms are designed principally to enhance government revenue, which is not a bad thing. One of the failures right now is there is no bridge. So it's been you do subsidy removal, a good thing, nothing given back. You do reform on electricity tariffs, something that might be good for liquidity in the system, nothing given back. You do unification of foreign exchange, companies are closing down, nothing given back. A lot of these reforms have hit us very hard. But so far, government hasn't looked at how to break inequality or how to ensure the poor don't get poorer. A lot of business collapsed this year. Multinationals collapsed. The SME, you're struggling to breathe. We have tax people on our neck, asking for audit of 4, 5 years, 3, 4 years, asking questions that make you want to close your business and walk away. A lot of people, I told somebody, I said, look, if it comes to the point, we'll just declare businesses bankrupt and we'll all move away. That puts more people out of the employment scheme. So while you're trying to do reforms, which are good and necessary, you have to think about the poor. Then another thing they don't do properly, they don't model. There's no modeling. Whenever you're designing any reforms that will have impact on people, you should model. How much are people earning? What's the cost of energy? Half of us have closed down offices because, one, staff can't afford to come to work. We can't afford to keep the office open. It's so costly to be in business. Then you now have people coming to you, chasing you for this, chasing you for that every day, which might be all legal and natural. But then you also have an unemployment crisis in Nigeria. So you have people who can't have jobs. And SMEs are the engine room of growth. Whenever I see our leaders, present and past, jump around to Europe and America looking for investors, they don't bring anything. They bring hot money in. They put money in your stock market. They put money in your treasury bills. That doesn't create any job. All you create is debt and liquidity for yourselves. The heart of the job industry is SME. And nobody has sat down and said, what is the SME coping? Nobody has modeled it. I mean, I saw some things in tax bill, which gives some exemptions. Right. But then you look at the numbers, 50,000 when people are minimum wage 70,000 now. What about other things you brought in? So you're taking more, giving nothing. So I don't think reforms were designed to close the gap. They were designed to maximize government revenues. Some say to reduce corruption, which can be, but people are dying. When I talk to my friends who were very supportive of the president during his campaigns, a lot of them are disillusioned and angry. If I spend more energy explaining the purpose of reforms to them, and one of my friends, very strong supporter of the APC, said, when you are building a house, your children die because they are building a house. That's what he told me. He said, your children all die. And I said, that's a good analogy. So you don't say don't build a house, which is the future. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that people starve to death, which is the problem we have.
Of your children who are your future.
Yes.
So the president said recently that, part of the problem in the country is that Nigerians have been living a fake life.
Yeah.
Do you think that is addressed to the common man or to the, some of the people in the elite who seem to be making who seem to be gaming the system? Because there's been quite a bit of controversy around that comment. How do you assess it?
Well, as somebody that supported subsidy removal and worked hard towards subsidy removal, I think in that context, that is not a lie. But the fake life, it means that you have taken something from somebody, give something back to them.
Right.
Now, you've taken from the common man. You have taken from those who game the system. I gave an example when you talked about the current situation we have in. If you try and book a hotel in Lagos now, the very expensive hotels, which are about 40,000, 400,000 a night, no rooms.
Wow.
If you go to parks where they sell a table for 1 million, no tables.
It's all taken.
It's all taken. But now you have people who can't afford a quarter of a bag of rice. For the first time, I myself, I'm not giving anybody rice. Because there's no way I can afford the 107,000 bags and give out 10 bags. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just food. So I've said to anybody, I'm not buying rice. I can't afford it. And there are people who depend on that rice for Christmas that I feel obliged to. But I said, this time around, let me just see what I can give to them in terms of financial help.
Right.
But it's that difficult. Now, if you're a parent now and you have a child in Nigerian university where they do not cook and you have to feed, how much will you give them a month to feed? In schools where they have cook, what is the minimum allowance they'll take? I went to my alma mater, Ife. They trek from the gate.
That's the Refinery.
Yes, they trek from the gate to the campus. They can't afford fares. All right, they might get the benefits of health work, but they don't want to work. And so it's very difficult. I know some in University of Lagos, a lot of courses have been redesigned to be external. To be online. Because, again, there's cost significance, and that has some impact on education. So whether you're saying, well, yes, there's extreme. The rich are still getting richer. You see Abuja roads, SUVs line up. Everybody can buy a policeman and buy a soldier or buy everything. They're buying that. But a lot of people are parking their cars at home. A lot of people, my car, I went to the mechanic, he's dropped me with this car. They were charging me 6,000 from what they call it, Utako to I'm like, are you guys kidding me?
Is that the Uber?
And I was like, what are you talking about?
What's the distance? Utako to
it's 15 minutes.
Quite close, yeah.
And I said, nobody should pay that kind of money. Nobody should pay that kind of money for anything. But I also understand that with 10,000, you get 9 liters of petrol.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's the consequences. So you've done reforms, but your reforms are forgetting that reforms are meant to stimulate an economy, to block leakages, to grow economy. You're proposing tax reforms, which you want to have more efficiency, make it easier for you to collect. But you've forgotten that behind the numbers, none of them does any modeling in their thinking.
Okay. Now, and I want us to still come to the tax reform, but I wanted to ask one more question around, some of what the president is trying to do. He's done a number of international travels, went to Brazil recently, South Africa, even France, where he had a state visit. In fact, South Africa even came up with a very good outcome. At least they said that, they're going to relax the visa restriction. But my question is, are those trips really, really bringing in the kind of support that we need, especially with foreign direct investment? Do you expect significant foreign direct investment from these trips? Well,
you said something which I will take it off from. There have been gains from the visits. Mm-hmm. It's only a cynic that will say there have been no gains.
Absolutely.
Whatever happened in South Africa with the Dubai issues and others, those are gains. FDI doesn't come because we visit them. FDI knows where to go to get the best returns. Money is not stupid. Money goes to where its interests are best taken care of. You don't need to go and ask people to invest in the economy. We live in a global village. Everybody knows the number that's happening in Nigeria. Everybody can research online. Look, before anybody brings $1 million to a country like Nigeria, they hire people to do due diligence for them. They hire people to do economic analysis for them. They speak to their peers already in the business. You don't need to go and search for people. Fix them. Fix your tax. Fix your ease of liquidity. Fix people's ability to make, which they've done some good work on that as well. They've lowered how much debt they owe investors. That's some work that they've done. So you don't need to...
Even the amount of money that is being paid for debt servicing has...
Yes. So it's not... that you have to complement that.
Right.
But traveling doesn't make anything. Obasanjo did it in his first term as office. Well, what we got was debt reduction. Now, if you're doing that again, maybe that's good. But who gives you debt when you're not curtailing your expenses? In all of the leadership sphere, what has kept on missing? There is no... He's saying, you carry the burden. Me, I'll be carried. We feel the pain. They're not doing anything. We have the Senate that is still as what they are, National Assembly what they are, the executive still living the life they used to live. They are not attempting to cut costs. They tell us, use CNG. Which of them has put CNG in their car? They tell us, CNG is an alternative. Lead by example. Show us government cars that you bought. Show us your convoys that have been converted to CNG. Let us see that model you're asking us to adapt. But then we'll follow. Nigerians like leadership.
True.
A man with a walking stick will direct traffic and people obey him.
True.
He doesn't have to wear a uniform. So that means people want to be led. So if you think about leadership, people want it. So if you're doing economic reforms, do it at home. Look at the small SME and ask why they're closing shop. What is affecting? Is it the visa to South Africa? Is it the Dubai thing? They are good things. Nobody should take note of it. But FDI will not create jobs for you. FDI will go to the areas of the economy, which, when look, if no bankers can't make money, there's no banking person now who's making money from lending. Everybody's doing money markets. How do you know what the cost of, you're competing with government. Government is pricing treasury bills at so percentage. Anybody giving you money will say above treasury bills. How can you match that? How can I lend money out at 38%, 34% when I add other costs to my own? So government has paid out private sector in banking. Now, if your banks can't lend and give money to the SME sector, your economy can't grow. It won't happen. So you can have good numbers going to your treasury bills where they've earned high returns, probably 99% on dollars. It will happen. They'll bring money. It's hot. It's higher than they'll get in UK or US. But it's hot money. It will come, it will go. And leave nothing for you. So it will be like sugar. Do nothing for your body, a temporary high, but weakening you on long run.
Wow. So, Mr. Adigo, I know that you have looked at these issues. You've been around for a while. You've advised and you've counseled a number of technocrats, even political leaders. If you were to have the opportunity to speak to the president, especially in the area of MSMEs, what are the key things that ought to be done, in your view, to calibrate that sector in such a way that it can bring the kind of transformation of which you speak?
Well, I don't think there's a calibration needed. What I think is, first of all, is make it something important. I'm dismayed regularly that they don't have any plan to raise employment and employability. There's none. To
increase?
They have not done, there's nothing. I mean, if a government is having security challenges as inherited, if a government is having productivity challenges as inherited, you would expect that the focus will be on job creations, job strengthening, which is what the SMEs can do. An SME taking more people on the streets. All our people living to UK, that jackpot into US, they're not going to take white class jobs. They are doing blue collar jobs.
True.
They are doing jobs where the SME sector is hiring them.
True.
That's what they're going to support. What are you doing about that modeling? What about incentives? The governor of Oyo State pushed down a tax bill in the state. I watched it on television. Okay. His argument is that good bill, which I wanted, but this time there's pain. I can't put this bill on now. You have issues. Now you're telling us they want to increase VAT from 7.5 to 10 to 12 to 15 over a period of years. What's the basis? What's the basis for that? Some people are not producing. The economy is stalling. That's not your priority now. Your priority now is granting these people tax. Not the people on tax holidays are not the chevrons and co. It's the small people. Who are they? What are they producing? You're looking at the value chain, supply chain. Where are they? Even in the contracts being awarded, the contracts in Abuja. And I must commend the Minister of FCT. I don't know where he's finding his money to do all the roads he's doing.
Well, it's out of TSA now.
Whatever he's getting it from, he's doing something that the other people didn't do. Every time you travel to Abuja, I see a new road. But you could have even done those in a way of stimulating the economy and creating more employment. Where you can design a road contract where there's money that filters down if it is well designed. Those are the way you tackle SMEs. But there's no strategic plan for that. Everything you're doing is disjointed. You're disjointed there, you're disjointed there. The biggest incentive that drives growth in the economy is lending. When the Obasanjo regime did the consolidation and Toledo came on board, and there were loans, a lot of loans going out. Right. There was default, but you created jobs. Right. The economy picked up. FDI, I keep on saying, will not bring any job to you. It will go to those areas where it's hot. And you get the quality of money you will get will be quality of that won't bring you growth. It will come in, it will stay. 3 months, it will harvest you, clear stock exchange, it will pick up, everybody will be saying bearish, bullish, it will go. You need to focus at the level of the backup industry. You need to revitalize all the SME areas. You need to and think about taxation. Pick models. Even the agriculture that we say is the biggest employer in our GDP. What's happening there?
What do you think about the livestock ministry? It's a new ministry. There's a lot
That was a waste of time and political. The one thing that is disappointing with somebody that says they're doing reforms, you haven't cost governance. What this government has done is balloon cost of governance.
Well, they say that the livestock industry is huge. And
what was the Minister of Agriculture doing? It is huge. Minister of Agriculture couldn't do it. There's a Department of Livestock in the ministry. That ministry was created for politics. It was evident. It was a political settlement. There's nothing about political settlements. It happens in governance. But what's the effect of it? What has changed? A cow now, if you're buying a cow now in Abuja, now it's 850,000 naira. To Lagos is $1 million bucks.
Moses.
Yeah, I have cows. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm
not planning to buy one, so I'll probably
I'm ahead of
850,000.
It costs me a lot of money to keep my cows alive.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I've told my herders, look, my existence business, I'm not making any money from it anymore. But it's a challenge. But so when you're saying you're doing like Mr. Afcock, what are you doing? Look, Mr. Agriculture is empowered. The amount of mouth we've given to agriculture from the Operation Feed the Nation of Obasanjo to date, there should be no reason why food should be cheap. They promised us there will be a food tariff importation on some essential foods. What happened between Minister of Finance and Minister of Agriculture, we don't know. Nothing ever happened. You come back now, it's rainy season, and harvest is on, grains are cheaper now. What happens again next year when grains become expensive? So what I'm still saying is that there's no coordination, there's no strategy. There's no way of even saying, okay, even in the value chain of agriculture, where do you create small jobs to do things? So it's not going to work. So you're doing too much macro, no micro. I'm not now absorbing state governments from what they can do. But we all know that a state government cannot determine interest rates. Every time Mr. Cardoso says it's fighting inflation, his normal reaction is to increase interest rates.
Right.
It doesn't work that well all the time. That's conventional economics. You've done it 3-4 times. It hasn't changed anything. Why do you keep on something that's not working? What happened to rethinking strategy and rethinking and refocusing and saying?
Although, like you said, it will be his own responsibility to do the macro.
Yes.
Because he's doing
monetary. And but then the point is they all work for the same government. If he does his part of saying, okay, we're saying inflation, we're moving the basis point, we're moving MRI, we're improving the cash reserve ratio, that's all fine. But what about the other part where we need to see it happening in our lives? where I can say, look, it's easier for me to do business. And I'm impressed with Dr. Odewale, who is the Minister of Trade and Investment.
Right.
I mean, I prayed when she was appointed because she's from us. So all the, whatever she had said.
When you say us,
us mean those of us that have been in the reform business, that have been talking.
Let the people understand that.
All of us have been reformers, have been talking about issues.
Yeah, she's very reform-minded.
We met together at seminars, we've spoken at places. She knows what the issues are. Being in Quebec for many years has exposed her. She's accessible to many people. So I'm hoping that she brings her leverage. But I know even she alone can have meaningful impact across the board. Maybe she'll focus on other things. But what I'm thinking is still is this. As I still speak to you, nobody can tell you they know the economic direction, the economic map. There's none. Even the strategy produced by APC, this present government, before they've deviated from it.
That's the renewed hope agenda.
It just became, it's what's happening and what they are running, very similar.
Wow. Okay, I mean, quite a lot of issues, but I wanted us to also talk about the tax reform. You've mentioned a bit about it. Now, what the proponents, and those who promote this tax reform bills have said is that it's actually going to reduce tax obligation on the part of poor people and MSMEs,
on paper, it's a very brilliant, the 4 bills are very good. The objectives they want to promote are very good. I must commend Odele and his team. It looks so good on paper. But there are 2 variants that are missing in the tax bill. There's no policy that the tax bill drives. The way we've learned to do reforms, you start with the policy framework, then you do the law. The law is driven by your policy. If your policy is to adjust the fiscals, to empower more people, to reduce the cost of collection, to reduce the burden, then when you finish your laws, you test that law against that policy. And that policy is what discussed at the highest level. Is that policy that FEC approves and saying, here is our new policy on fiscal allocation, here's a new policy. It's missing. The bills talk about the objective, but doesn't harmonize. And that's why it's not being sold. That's why it's a lot of instances there. Now, a lot of people will not have read the bills, being fair. They will just assume on what they're told, and then the policy will come in as normal. But had you taken the pains to have a good consultative policy, what people will now check is the laws we've now drafted in these 4 bills, do they support the policy of government as regards tax collection, tax verification, as regards ombudsman for tax complaints, as many regards as whether you're taking National Revenue Service and what are you trying to achieve. And once you can spell that out in a good and current polar policy, the discourse is much simpler. But once you don't have that, then you're chasing narratives. You're going to be engaging, all over engaging, which is necessary. At the end of the day, politics will submerge something good and noble. And that's what happens with bills where you do it first. You do one before the other. And that's why I talk about that coordination part of it. When a government at the federal level and the ministers are policy people, they determine and draft policy. And the policy must sync with their agenda. Here's our agenda. Here's what promised Nigerians. Here are the policies that we think will make this work. Then we do the laws that make that policy implementable. And then when we are having a debate, we're debating if the laws make the policy happen. But when there's no policy and we're discussing objectives of the law, then we're thinking, what does it reference? And then the argument becomes lost in narrative.
Interesting. Very, very interesting perspective. So do you think that the tax reform bills might suffer not only because of that, but also because of what seems to be a politicization of it? A lot of the northern governors have, as a matter of fact, they are almost banging the table, And I think most people agree that there are some good things there. You have pointed to the fact that there is the missing policy complement of it. But in terms of revenue, in terms of making collection more effective, and in terms of actually getting more people in the tax bracket, because we don't just pay taxes in Nigeria. All of those factors seem to be welcome. But are you also worried that this thing can be ultimately completely politicized?
Well, a tax is both a political and fiscal bill everywhere in the world. Tax is not fiscals alone. Tax is meant to reduce inequality, to drive equity, to drive policy. Anytime you do anything on taxation, you're not looking at the fiscal elements alone, the numbers alone. No. It's a political bill. Tax is being political from the creation of taxation. Either to bring more inclusiveness, bring more people into tax bracket, to redistribute income, to distribute wealth, or generate more efficiency and equality across states. So nobody should take out it's a political issue. And that's where the failure was. The failure was not recognizing that this is a political tool. Tax is a political tool. And the politics wasn't well properly dealt with. You cannot imagine a party who has the majority in the National Assembly, majority of governors who dominate the NEC, can't pass their own bill.
In NEC.
It is shameful. Let's be clear. If you are a dominant party, you are a single party, you won an election, you have the highest numbers in NEC, you have the highest numbers in both assemblies, and you cannot sell a proposal, then there's something wrong with your politics. And that's where it will fail, because you didn't get the politics right. Whatever good elements are in the bill will suffer political issues. And now, one good thing again is this. I asked somebody, I said, look, there are principles in every taxation. There's equity and there's equality. You think about equity, and you think about equality. Once you can have a conversation, is this equitable? So when you tell somebody, oh, you get more, no, don't worry, Kano will get more, although it's getting more, no, Lagos not getting more, Lagos getting less. It's all arguments. That is a challenge. Then when you don't pay attention to the politics, again, you take a VAT element, which is very critical, and you say, okay, VAT element. People that will not read the bill. You find out that of 10 commentators, 6 have not read it. And they will never read it. But they will stick to their guns.
They will pick a narrative.
And that's what they will hold on to. But that's because you didn't do the proper way of doing things. Again, not overflogging the issue. Had you done proper political consultation, the narrative would be simple to understand. Have you turned simplification? It would have been easy to understand. Had you done engagement on the political level and used your champions? It should be a neck that your bill will step down. Your bill shouldn't step down at neck. Shouldn't control controversy. You are the ruling party. You are a majority. You don't have any opposition. There's no PDP. There's no other party in Nigeria. It's APC. And people are decapping every day, jumping. So what is wrong? You are not doing the politics properly. Get the politics properly right. Engage properly. And don't push it through. But the most critical part of the anger is, it seems you're always taking, never giving back. That's the feel of Nigerians. Every reform you've done, we're paying more for petrol. We're paying more for dollars. We're paying more for electricity. What have you given us back in return? There's no social support. There's no cash transfers that really work. They did episodes of it. There is no realistic wage to pay. So why is the model only about getting more? And then you're getting more. People think you're getting more and consuming more. It's not going to where we think it should happen. So we are saying you get more. But we are saying you still buy horrendous jeeps. We're looking at the budgets, and we're seeing capital expenditure that is still marginal, discretionary expenditure that is still high. We're seeing the normal National Assembly doing what they know how to do best. It's scissors and a knife, haircutting the Nigerian people through the budget process, negotiating their own share up front before we even see the budget itself. Nothing has changed.
Wow.
And so I want Nigerians to support something that is going to take more from them.
Interesting.
And you are saying, we're getting more back in return. We don't believe you. So there's a trust deficit, even within the party itself. That deficit is showing in the conversations. While some northern governors who think this doesn't work, then you have the southern caucus who say, oh, we support the bill, this happens. You are creating a dichotomy in that conversation. And you're bringing it what is exactly it is, a political issue. I would have assumed that the best way to do it is saying, okay, here's the fiscal allocation. Let's tamper with everything. Maybe we give more people all oil. Maybe we do something, we tamper with the revenue or for sharing formula as well. Maybe we put everything on the table.
Right.
You know, as they say in Yoruba, karatosha. So everybody dices it. Then we now say, okay, here it is. And it's not something you rush through. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing properly. The team was full of good quality people. The team on paper was well composed. And I mean, you can't fault anybody on that committee. These are well-seasoned professionals. Right. But then the political angle wasn't there at all. Because there wasn't a fresh framework for the politics of it.
I mean, very important point, Mr. Adegunde, you raised about the fact that this idea couldn't scale through the National Economic Council. Now, the National Economic Council is an advisory body,
yes.
so not that it's mandatory.
Yes.
But the fact that even NEC couldn't endorse it,
correct.
That's just a slap on the entire political.
It tells you it's political.
Although, I will say this, and then I'll let you comment that. It's very rare to have National Economic Council chaired by the vice president, vice president to the president, to give a knock on the head to the president. I mean, I was in that council,
yes.
As an aide to the vice president, was the chair for 8 years.
Correct.
That was not going to happen, because, you had to maintain that image. So if there was going to be a problem, and not that there weren't contention, but if there was going to be a problem, you needed to find a way to politically manage it so that it doesn't come out into the open. For NEC to come out openly to say that, no, Mr. President, you can't do that, I felt that was very, very self-indicting of the political process.
You said what I said, and I agree with you. I mean, I felt shocked as well, because I felt, having had the opportunity as a consultant to come and present to NEC on oil and gas issues, on the oil policies under the previous government. It's a sort of question and answers. I sort of agree there's a negotiation there. But that's because pre-NEC, there are negotiations. And there's consultations.
You're never taken by surprise.
You should not be. At the point in time you take something, that means something missed out. And somebody said, the governor of Borno said, he can have his way, which is possible. That because the National Assembly is very, we have a National Assembly that is a yes, sir. These ones are even worse than any we ever had. Anything the president wants, he gets. But you're going to damage the fulcrum of the party, and you're going to damage acceptance and acceptability. And a lot of things that happen in countries start from discussions such as this. A president should say, look, take it back. Don't say they are just advisory. These are governors. In your bill, you have subnationals. You need them to cooperate with you to make it happen and make it work. You can't alone reform a country. Reform has to be all units, local. You've done very good things. You've given power to autonomy. But I think you're doing too much at the same time. Slow down. Consolidate what you've done already. These people are there looking at their people who are in pain. People are there looking at the people who will stone them, who can cause riots. They need to be able to sell something good and say to their people, well, we are taking this from you, but we're giving this back to you. But you've not given anything. Just to say a few more words on that, and then we have a conversation quickly on it. I think that the real failure here is the inability of the ruling party and the presidency, particularly the vice president, because you shouldn't allow a situation where this becomes what it has become. I agree with you.
Sitting in that chair as the chairman of NEC, you cannot be taken by surprise, or you ought not to be taken by surprise. But you're right, governors come in there, and this happens all the time.
It does.
Governors come in there, they have their agenda. As a matter of fact, the governors hold their meetings every day, every time the NEC meets, a day before.
Correct.
So the governor already, they are coming with a plan.
Correct.
So you better be prepared, otherwise they're going to just outfox you.
You have to have empathy for the vice president. The rumors you hear about him being disenfranchised and not being included in leadership might be true. I don't have any information about it. I'm just speaking as a grain of
I also
because
don't.
That was an indication of it. You are the vice president of the country.
Right.
You are the head of the Economic Council. There is nothing that I should not know. The biggest objectors were from your zone.
Absolutely.
The reason why you politically pair people on different zones, you say, well, I take care of this.
You take care of that.
That's the balance you wanted. You wanted somebody from the north to run with somebody from the south. So you wanted the northern constitution should have been done by the person. But if a person doesn't have enough resources or power to consult, then it gets embarrassing for everybody. Then the fallout is what we all see. And then you have radicals. Then you're going to have schisms in leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I have also had occasion to say that, to your point about, although I think that the vice president should have, averted what happened in NEC, but hey, I mean, I have also said it publicly that it's not even the chairman of the economic management team.
It's not.
I mean, you make the coordinating minister the chair of the management team.
You created 3 economic teams.
Yeah.
One of them has not sat for once. It's the one they announced where they put all experts. One meeting they have not had.
Oh, wow. I mean, a minister cannot technically call another minister to a meeting. You don't have the convening authority. That's the job of the vice president. The vice president has the convening authority. He can call the ministers together and they will still respect him. But here, your vice president, who is the chair of NEC, is not the head of your management team. That's just a distortion.
When they said somebody was coordinating Minister of Economy, I said exactly what you said. I said, under the rules of the game, a minister cannot convene another minister. That convening minister is a misnomer.
Right.
It does not exist in the Constitution or the law. It's an arbitrary knowledge they give to anybody. What do you convene? What do you coordinate? You put NEC is statutory. The last government, Buhari tried to suppress it for politics. Right. They created a counter NEC and were doing games and didn't allow NEC to make because of their own political issues. Politically, what the impact in all of us is. It's same situation playing out. And that's why I said the bill, when you're doing any tax bill, any reforms, there's a politics of it. Yeah. If we don't get politics of it right, then everything you're doing is a waste of time.
Okay, because of our time so much, I mean, it's quite a very exciting conversation, but I would like you to go without taking a question on the situation with the refineries. Now we have the Dangote refinery. I think everything is going well so far. And then we have the Port Harcourt refinery. What do you think Nigerians should expect in terms of, should Nigerians expect better pricing? I imagine that we should have availability. But what are the realistic expectations that Nigerians should have? And what are the unrealistic expectations, that we may have?
The first unrealistic expectation is to think the prices will fall to 500 naira. No. One good thing is happening now. The exchange rate is falling. Yeah. That will impact pricing.
By 200 naira.
Right, whatever more they can do, it's a significant impact on pricing. The crude price are falling. Yeah. Let's hope Syria stays stable. It's now $72 or thereabout. Right. That will impact price. But Nigerians should forget about the days of 500 naira litre petrol or 600 petrol. Because same kind of rumors they had under Dangote is the rumors they're having under things. Now, Port Harcourt is producing 1.7 million litres as of now. That's less than 4% of daily consumption based on public information and consumption. Right. 4% will not get an impact. I know it's 960 naira per litre that's coming out now that they're giving their trucks. So Nigerians should have no expectations of a of a radical price change. That's unrealistic. What determines the price of a product is your exchange rate, the price of crude. If those keep on falling, then you get to a point where, yes, you have that. But the days of 300, 400 per litre petrol is gone. Now, what should you expect? The government has market for its crude right now. So, good enough again, the government is ramping up crude supply. Right. We're now down to like 1.7, 1.76, which is quite good and very impressive. Right. That means you have more crude. What the aim of the policy of government, national oil policy, which was approved by President Buhari, was to ensure Nigeria retains the crude in country and adds value to it and is the next exporter of products. That shouldn't change. Once we start exporting products, we make 800% more than we make from selling crude. If a barrel of crude is $76, on one barrel, if you add value to it, it's $1,110. So you see how much money you gain.
So that can boost our foreign earnings.
It should boost our foreign earnings. If we're taking care of the West Coast, as we ought to be doing, if we're maximizing all that and all they're doing on gas and all notable things, it's good. So that is good for Nigerians' earnings. And the more foreign exchange we can earn, the better impact for our dollar. And if the more dollars we have, the less the price of petrol will be. So it's a good thing. It's a very good thing happening. I mean, NNPC must have learned its lesson now in terms of communication. I mean, the lack of this skepticism and lack of belief of the refinery working is their own making. When you promise false dates, you put false information in the public. When you now say the truth, you know that story of somebody carrying woof. When the real woof came, nobody believed it. So they should have learned the lesson. Don't promise. If you look, they say on their promise and over-deliver. But you've constantly over-promised and under-delivered. So you've created a room for doubts and cynicism about the refineries. But I'm happy now we are doing 1.6, 1.7. I'm happy this is not a TAM. They need to turn around. This is a rehabilitation. Port Harcourt 2 will come on stream very soon. I don't know when. But again, I've had privilege to see the first refinery, and I know it's good. It's working. It's a real good value for things.
Great.
Hopefully, when we can get to about local refineries doing about 10 million liters per day, then we can stop importation.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And hopefully we'll be able to even get our crude oil output to 2 million.
I must give the government kudos on what they're doing on the fiscals in terms of more production. I'm also credit them that at least we've had 2 deals approved of 3 deals that were stagnant for some time. We still have the Shell and Renaissance deal not done yet. Hopefully the president will get involved in that and move that forward, because the more deals are settled, the more people can go back. Maybe we can have a entry to Goni land after all the matches are done, and all this ramp up production. And that's what we need in Nigeria.
Hopefully we'll get it. Thank you so much, Mr. Adigun, for coming to Inside Sources. And thank you for your reform-mindedness, like some of us. And thank you for your contributions.
Thank you, sir.
Always.
Thank you, sir.
That's another segment, and Inside Sources will be right back. Okay, welcome back to Inside Sources. On this second segment, we want to look at quite a few issues in the polity, starting with the ongoing legal battle and public opinion issue between Chief Afe Babalola and Mr. Dele Farotimi regarding the criminal defamation case in Ekiti State. To join me in this discussion, I have a veteran journalist, a retired banker, and a notable Nigerian author, Mr. Etim. You're welcome to Inside Sources. It's your first time. You're welcome to Inside Sources, Mr. Etim.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
All right, thank you. And welcoming back to Inside Sources is an attorney, an Abuja-based lawyer, Mr. Ibrahim Wali. Welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you, Mr. Laolo. It's my pleasure being here one more time.
Thank you. So let's start with Etim. As a journalist and a writer yourself, how do you assess this, what has become an obsession in the last 1 week in the news about the arrest of Mr. Farotimi and all the flurry of activities and public opinion that this has attracted, in a very compelling way? What's your take, just to open up?
My take is that it has taken a life of its own, and I'm not sure any of the parties had expected that things will come this way. It's grabbed headlines. Everybody is surprised. Well, as a citizen, my sense is that Chief Babalola probably shouldn't have taken this route. He too would be reflecting on whether this is the best course of action. I've seen the book. I've read portions of it. Yes, it might be very difficult for the old man himself, but he should have reflected a lot more deeply and taken a different route. I think he went for the kill. Dele himself is a tough nut for those of us who know him.
Yeah.
I think he's prepared for this and is ready for him.
And that's the point that I also share, Etim, that I think a lot of the people who have commented about this in the public, especially the lawyers, they seem to underestimate Mr. Farotimi's resolve.
Correct.
We can determine, we don't know, the judge and the courts, we sort out the issues, but it is very clear that Mr. Farotimi knows what he's doing.
I'm sure he has something he will bring up in the court, and people will be saying, Dele, you again.
Well, that's why we have Mr.
As
Ibrahim
a journalist
Wali, to help us clear out the legal issues. And the first thing I wanted to address, Mr. Wali, is, in addition to whatever else you like to say, is that, so there's a bit of confusion about this idea of criminal defamation. I have heard lawyers say that, as a matter of fact, criminal defamation is out of the books. There's a Court of Appeal ruling, there's a Supreme Court ruling. I've also had lawyers, actually, Mr. Femi Falana said that there are 2 states in Nigeria that have decriminalized criminal defamation, Edo and Lagos. So my first question, if you could help us, Mr. Wali, is, what is the situation? Is there criminal defamation still? Is it still, I don't know what's the language they use in law. Is this still something that somebody can be charged with in Nigeria today?
Thank you so much for the question. Indeed, in Nigeria today, criminal defamation is an offense. It is provided for in the Criminal Procedure Act, which is applicable in the southern states that have adopted and domesticated it, and also in the Criminal Procedure Code applicable in the northern states that have domesticated it. These laws, although federal in nature, are meant to actually apply to states that don't have their own primary criminal codes. But states like Lagos, for example, and Edo states who have gone on to, enact their own criminal codes have removed the provisions for criminal defamation. So in those two jurisdictions, you cannot charge for criminal jurisdiction. But I think even in Ekiti State, when we looked at the law itself, I mean, they also have their own criminal code. When we looked at it, they also don't have any provision for criminal defamation. But indeed, for the states who actually operate within these codes, you can be charged for criminal defamation. But I think what is important for people to understand is that regardless of the fact that it is there in the law, it's actually a misdemeanor. The offense for criminal defamation is just 1 year. If it is libel, it's just 2 years. So I personally don't see how criminal defamation...
When lawyers say, I'm sorry for, but when they say that, 1 year, 2 years in jail, that's a lot of time for anybody to want to be in jail. But I see your point.
It does look like a lot of time, but by the legal stratas, it's still a misdemeanor. Right. 3 years to 7 or above is a felony, and then you go on up to capital punishment. But yes, it's a misdemeanor. 1 year or 2 years max. Sometimes you might even get an option of fine, but it's not provided for in the law itself. So I don't think that it is an adequate remedy anyway for defamation. First of all, it doesn't restore reputation. And secondly, and importantly, it doesn't really give you the remedy, because even if somebody spends 1 year or 2 years in prison, I don't think that really helps you. In fact, it might just be,
it might worsen your matter.
It might worsen you, because people are going to think that you are using state machinery. Correct. I think it is the civil process that actually gives you a rounded remedy, and allows it's more credible, it's more transparent. There's no involvement of the state. It is actually the party himself funding his own proceedings. But I think they've started filing civil suits. I think I've seen 1 or 2, and I think that it's impressive, because it's going to add to our jurisprudence, to our defamation jurisprudence. But there is a trend globally, and even in Nigeria, that's really sweeping against criminal defamation. Even her lordship, Ogunmiju, at the Supreme Court, she once held that, it is a trend that criminal defamation is really relegated now, because it doesn't serve any purpose, frankly. It's become an oppressive tool, with time. So
it was designed to be oppressive because the colonists brought it.
I've been sure it was designed to. Yes, but yeah, it doesn't have any utility today, frankly, safe to intimidate and to punish before even deciding whether or not there's defamation. So I think that is a problem. But the civil route is just more transparent, and you get a more robust remedy. You get apologies, you get retraction, you get as much as you can compute for your damages. And it's just you can also get decisions to destroy the publication, to damage the publication, to stop the publications and stuff like that. All of these remedies you can really only get in a civil court. And then obviously you give the person the chance, the opportunity, the fair hearing to come and see if they can justify their assertions, and if not, the court is going to make its decision. But I think the criminal routes already is taking the criminal route is more emotional than it's logical, because it doesn't help, it doesn't restore. And if you look at social media reactions, you'd see that that criminal route is why maybe Chief is finding the media decision a little bit difficult.
All right. Yes. So let me take it to Mr. Etin. So, I mean, you have read the book. I have read the book too. But do you think that the reputation of the judiciary itself with the Nigerian people, and I think even lawyers and judges have also spoken to this. I think it was the retired Justice Datijo.
Datijo.
Even Amina Oji, that ruling that she gave over the Bayelsa case, where she did accuse 2 leading lawyers, whose name I won't mention just to respect them, said that what their action desecrated,
correct,
the temple of justice, and that the motion that they filed, is a motion, the case that they brought was vexatious. Amina Haji, retired justice, said she had tears in her eyes reading that judgment. So there are issues in the Nigerian judiciary. Etim, the question is, has this case worsened the situation in terms of the perception that Nigerians have about the judiciary?
This case has reminded Nigerians once again of the ugliness in the judiciary. Where, every now and then, a lot of people speak about it, lawyers speak about it, judges themselves speak about it, and Nigerians have almost become frustrated, throwing up their hands in the air. What else can we do? Every 4 years, especially during election petitions, Nigerians read meanings into all such cases in the court. So we have always known that there are issues in the judiciary. And Dele wrote about it in his book and cited examples. Very few people read the book, but now the book has become a global phenomenon.
It became Amazon's bestseller last week.
Nobody wanted that. People are looking for the book everywhere to read. So the judiciary itself is in trouble because of this case. I'm also worried about the political environment. It seems to be poisoning the political environment. Some people are saying that it is even the government that is behind Dele's travels. The way we read meanings into everything. So all sort of insinuations are going on out there and creating once again impression that this is an era of intolerance. Big men hammering small men, government intimidating free speech and free thinkers and civil rights activists. So this is not a very good case. This shouldn't have happened. I just hope, my sense is that somewhere down the line, wisdom will prevail and Chief will come to a conclusion that this should be taken out of the court and settled amicably.
Well,
that is what maybe I'm hoping for.
Exactly. I think part of the challenges, and I think Mr. Wali's insinuated that point, is that already, Mr. Farotimi has had to be punished. Even when we get a chance, before we get a chance whether this was actually defamatory or not, the man is being punished.
Yes.
One court said that, okay, we give you bail. The other one said no bail, But I want to take it back to Mr. Wali. So some lawyers have said that, Mr. Farotimi shouldn't have done that. He's a lawyer, I understand. But is there a potential professional misconduct? Well, maybe that's that's not before the court, so you can talk about that.
It is before the LPDC. I think that I've seen a process before the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee.
Oh, I see.
Yes, so it might be tricky to talk about anything that is subject.
I understand that. Yes,
but I would just like to say that anytime there's a case of this nature, as with any other case, frankly, it is actually the judiciary that's on trial, not the parties. Parties would come and go, but the judiciary remains, constant. So it is difficult to reconcile or to tell the people that a magistrate court, an inferior court, whose processes are mostly dispensed with summarily and orally, first of all, refused to take, an oral application for his bail. He had to go and come back and
twice now.
Yes, I'll get to the second one.
Okay.
And during the process, before he came back, for the second time, he went to the Federal High Court. They charged him to the Federal High Court under the Cyber Crimes Act. And he was able to get bail. I think it was orally. So for the magistrate court not to give bail for a misdemeanor, a court of summary jurisdiction, and for the Federal High Court, who usually insist on written applications to give bail. Obviously, there's an inconsistency that you just can't reconcile to the common man.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
We are confused.
Yes, yes, it is confusing. Okay, fine. We agree that put it in writing. They did put it in writing, and then they came, I think it was yesterday, they went to court, and then they moved the application, and then it was adjourned for 10 days for ruling. Even the Federal High Court, I'm a criminal defense attorney, I don't think I've ever gotten 10 days for ruling in the Federal High Court. It's usually, if the court, my lord cannot give it on that day, it's usually the next day or 2 days later. That is even in the Federal High Court where, there are applications, there are affidavits, counter affidavits, and, it's a court of superior court, and the court is going to have to look into the facts before coming to a decision. So I'm surprised that a magistrate is going to adjourn the matter for 10 days for ruling on bail. I've never seen that before, frankly, and I don't think that augurs well for the perception of the judiciary.
And it all fits into the general perception that this is not ordinary matter.
Yes.
Well, I know, but I don't think that government is involved.
No, I don't think so, but I'm not the only one in this country.
Oh, of course.
There are many people, a lot of Nigerians are conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. Many people in the obedient movement really think that the government is involved.
Yes, it's
but I know that the government is not involved. Look,
no.
Just for purposes of recall, Chief Afe Babalola was the lawyer of the federal government when they denied Lagos State their federal allocation for years after the ruling of the Supreme Court. Chief Afe Babalola was, one of the legal advisors of General Obasanjo was president. So I don't think that they are going to be dandy with President Tinubu, because that was a real blow. If Governor Tinubu then wasn't innovative, they could have run down the state because they denied them their allocation. So although stuff changes, but people should remember that when we're talking about
the reality is I don't think there's anything that has happened yet to suggest government interference. I don't think that anything that has happened yet is outside the capacity of a private person in Nigeria. I think most private people, if they know their way, if they have the resources, I think that they can do the same things. It's one of the problems with the system, obviously. So the presidency or the government doesn't have to actually be involved before you can invoke all these machineries that have been invoked. And especially for someone like Chief, I don't think that he needs any presidential backing to fight this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Etimetim and Mr. Ibrahim Wali, for your contributions. Our time is fast spent. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. That is why we are here, and we will not relent. Thank you for watching. My name is Laulu Akonde, and by the grace of God, I'll see you again next edition.